based on real events. "31-year-old Klara Mauerhalba was born in 1975. She was a girl from Czechoslovakia, and her 33-year-old sister Katerina liked to talk about how they were destined to fulfill some mission for God in their lives. Both sisters had the same mentality. They were always planning big things for the future together. Klara Morova was born in 1975 in Krem, Czech Republic. She struggled with depression and mental health problems in her youth. Klara started studying at the university at the age of 20, but she could never free herself from her so-called religious obsessions. Klara soon managed to become independent and started living with a man. Klara had two sons, 8-year-old Andrei and 9-year-old Jakub, but the children's father abandoned Klara due to her strange behavior and beliefs, so she raised them almost alone. After this situation, her sister Katerina called Klara, and they started living together. Katerina was also educated in pedagogy. In the beginning, no one was worried that Klara could be a good mother. She was always seen as motherly and caring for the children. She played with them, took them on vacation, went to summer camps. Her two sisters also joined a cult called the Grial movement. Members of this cult believed that they could enter heaven only by doing good deeds, but they also believed that they were completely exempt from committing crimes. But everything changed after a new child named Annika was born. When Katerina came to visit Klara and her nieces, she brought with her a 13-year-old girl named Annika, a Norwegian orphan. She was looking after her after learning that she had escaped from a sex trafficking ring in Norway. Annika described how she had been severely sexually and physically abused by gang members, which earned Klara great sympathy. Annika was also suffering from many diseases such as leukemia and kidney failure. She was both blind and deaf. She spent most of her time in hospitals. She was very weak. Described as a naive and easily manipulated person, Klara began to accept Annika into her family and care for her as a child. Katerina did not allow Klara to take her to hospital visits. She only communicated with Annika by phone. She received strange messages from a mysterious doctor who wanted to meet face to face to discuss. She made an appointment to meet in a car around midnight. It was very late. It was very dark outside, and the man's face was also, he didn't look very well. But she felt at ease as he had all of Annika's medical records and also showed her his diplomatic passport. This information was enough for Klara to accept this man as Annika's new and official doctor. Soon, the messages and emails she received from the doctor became increasingly strange. He was talking about some treatment plans that he believed would help the girl. For example, he was telling Klara to rub her whole body, especially her groin area, for hours, saying that he thought it would make her very happy. In 2006, Klara began to pay less attention to her sons. She mostly sent them to live with their grandparents. This was also the period when she started thinking about adoption. The doctor told Klara that it was impossible for her sons to adopt her because of their attitude towards Annika. When Klara asked the doctor what she should do, the doctor was very harsh and disciplined. and he suggested that he should cure the evil spirits of the children with physical punishments. He began to beat the children for the slightest wrong they had done, as if he was looking for any reason to hurt them. He would beat them with his bare hands with wooden spoons and belts, and even went so far as to lock them in small rooms and leave them there for the night. Girl, under the influence of the brother-in-law, the brothers agreed to become part of a sect called the Grial sect, which they claim had hundreds of followers in England and around the world. This movement, based on holy books, was founded between 1923 and 1988 by the German Oscar Ernst Bernhard, who settled in Austria in 1928 and wrote his great work called Cast a Message in the Light of Truth. All actions and strange activities carried out by the sect were based on the Holy Grail message, which stated that man could flourish by doing good things on earth. One of the rules of the group was that its followers stayed away from social taboos such as incest, cannibalism, and murder, and communicated with their followers only through text messages sent to their mobile phones. The doctor supported slavery, child abuse, and sexual promiscuity with a libertarian approach. In August 2006, Dr. Clara said that these punishments were not working and that they should try something else. This was shock therapy. He told her to take him to a small hut away from everyone. In this hut, the children would be educated to the level the doctor wanted. They were going to come. When they arrived at the hut, there was someone else waiting for them. A man named Jean and a woman named Hannah were waiting where the doctor pointed. This hut would be the place where all the torture would begin for two innocent children. The children were kept locked in dog cages, and here they were literally treated like animals. They were so small that the children could not stand up or move at all. They were also forced to eat inside the cages using dog bowls. They were also forced to go to the toilet inside the cages. They were not allowed to talk to each other, their mothers, or anyone else there. Clara kept their heads submerged for so long that they were afraid they would almost drown. While their heads were under water, Katerina was holding their arms from behind to prevent them from resisting their mother. She was burned with cigarettes, scratched with a fork, sexually abused, beaten, forced to fight each other, and her arms and legs were often tied behind her back. Others took part in the beatings and burnings and put sacks over their heads. They cut off some meat from one of the children's hips and burned the cut area with a cigarette. They then forced him to eat his own flesh. They enjoyed it so much that they took pieces from other parts of their bodies in the same way and continued to eat and feed them. If the children vomited, they also made sure their mouths were taped to keep them from screaming. Annika would make things worse by lying to the adults. She told them that the children were still mistreating her. In September 2006, Kara decided to start the adoption process again, and it was successful. Clara handed over her sons to Katerina. Katerina moved back in with Clara, and the abuse started again. Andrei and Jakob couldn't tell anyone anything. The children were treated almost the same way they were treated in the hut, only this time they were kept in a concrete cellar where every moment was recorded. Meanwhile, Annika was in her own bedroom. While living such a life, the children were locked there for about a year. A man named Edward, who lived nearby, was setting up a security camera and baby monitor for his newborn son. These baby monitors could sometimes be faulty. If someone living nearby also had a baby monitor, the monitor could receive his signal and view your own image. That's exactly what happened in September 2006. Clara had put baby monitors in her house so she could monitor her children's cage. When Edward went to check the baby monitor, instead of seeing his son's crib, he saw a young boy completely naked with his arms and legs tied behind his back. He was very dirty, did not look healthy, and was eating from the floor. At some moments, a woman's hand appeared and was feeding the child. Edward was so scared that he immediately called the police. He went door to door to find out where the images came from, and he finally found Clara, and her sons Clara and Katerina were immediately arrested, and the 3 children were placed in a house called Claw Neck. A girl was standing in front of the cage holding a teddy bear in her hand. When she saw the agents, she ran straight into their arms. They told her her name was Annika. She was 13 years old, and he said that Clara was his adopted daughter. The agents took her out. After trying to open the iron cage, Annika thought it was the perfect opportunity to escape. After a while, when they realized that the girl had disappeared, they confirmed that she was an adult woman and was involved in terrible acts committed against children. She was never Annika. She was actually a 33-year-old woman named Barbara Skrlova. She had a gland disease that made her look much younger than she actually was, and she could easily look like a 13-year-old girl. She escaped from there. Missing notices were posted everywhere, and she was finally found, caught. The police identified her real identity. She was sent back to Norway as Barbara. Everyone in that hut was loyal to a man named Joseph, who was the leader of the cult they were in. Joseph was also Barbara's father, and Katerina knew who the whelp really was from the beginning. She knowingly played with Clara because she knew how easy it would be to manipulate her. Josephine is the person who provided all the documents shown inside the car that night. Maybe the person in the car was the same man also. He was never a doctor, and all the messages and emails came from Katerina and Barbara's devices. Martin F.A. and his wife are also in the same cult and took Barbara to Denmark. From there, they also used their own son's identity to smuggle him to Norway. Because Barbara was already a fugitive at that time, Barbara claimed that she did all this to escape from the realities of her own life. In court, she also tried to claim that she was beaten by 2 sisters, but no one believed her. Clara was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Katerina was sentenced to 10 years, and Barbara was sentenced to 5 years. The other people in the hut, he was sentenced to 5 to 7 years, and since then everyone has been released on parole. Today, Clara, Katerina, and Barbara are free outside. No one has any idea what they are doing. They all continue to live a life hiding themselves. Meanwhile, one of the 2 children lost his life. The other one is suffering with this pain. He continues to live with his father.